I cut a piece of this log and then I put it on this machine called a bandsaw, and I just ran it through the bandsaw in order to cut it into two pieces. And the orientation of the bowl in the log is either with the bottom over on this side or with the bottom over here, in which case you have a top that has the bark on it, which we call a natural edge bowl. And now I can put this on this machine called the lathe. This piece of the lathe is called the banjo, and it just holds a tool rest. I position the tool rest as close as I can to the piece of wood. So now I take a tool called a bowl gouge. Now I can take this bowl gouge, put it on the tool rest, and then just move it past the wood very slowly. So you can see that I've rounded a whole lot of it, but there's still a lot to be done. Now the other thing I have to worry about with a natural edge bowl is losing the bark. I'm going to make a little raised edge there called a tenon. I'm going to switch to a smaller tool now. It will cut a little more finely so that the surface won't be quite so rough. A little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to switch to another tool. This is called a Skew Chisel. There, so now that the chuck on the lathe, the thing that I grab it with, will be able to hang on to that very nicely. Now the part of the wood that is the weakest is the cambium. It's that part of the wood right between the bark and the sap. This is the bark, this is the sap wood, and this is the heartwood, this darker wood. And this little part right here is very soft. So I'm going to put some glue along there in order to fasten the bark onto the wood a little more tightly. So I'm just going to hold this and I'm going to run the glue right along the edge of the cambium and the bark, and try not to get too much on the wood itself. Wood turners are warned to keep a solvent very close at hand, so if they get stuck. So I put this in the chuck, and then I use this lever to tighten it down. And now that is grabbed tightly so that I can form the inside of the bowl. And put glue just on the cambium. Now what I need to do with this piece is I need to wrap it in some newspaper to let it dry out slowly. And after a couple of weeks, when it's drier, I can get it out again, put it back on the lathe, and remove this ugly part right here on the bottom, and reshape this tenon so it looks more like a foot. After the tenon has been shaped, it will look like this. It will have, it'll be dished in the middle so that it just rests on the edge, and it'll be a little curved and shorter so that it matches the shape of the overall size of the rest of the bowl. And on the inside, we will have sanded it all, and then I'll put about 5 or 6 coats of a finish. And finally, at the very end, I'll polish it with a cloth and some buffing material that makes it a little bit smoother. And then at the very end, I always put my name and the kind of wood on the bottom, as well as a number. I keep a database with all of the bowls that I've made. My name is Tad Pinkerton. I am a retired faculty member at the university. I was a member of the computer sciences department, and I retired in 2000. And we traveled quite a bit for a few years, and then I wanted to find another thing to do, so I began woodturning. About 4 years ago, I got very interested in woodturning after seeing many pretty bowls in shops and other places. And I decided I wanted to use local woods. Many turners like to get exotic woods from Africa and South America and this sort of thing, but I decided it was more fun to experiment with all of the local woods. I'm making natural edge bowls much of the time because I like that form with the bark on the piece. But sometimes the bark won't stay on, and while it's on the lathe it will just fly off. So then I end up with a piece that it has an interesting rim, but it doesn't have any bark on it, so it doesn't look as nice. So one day I took a torch and I went around and charred the whole edge of the bowl to make it look like the bark was on yet. And that worked pretty well. So now I do that once in a while when I have that problem. And sometimes it works out pretty well. As you get more and more experience turning, you're able to cut more cleanly so that you don't have to sand as much. And there's always more to learn about the different kind of finishes you can put on to make a bowl feel right and look right.